Hello, and thanks for joining us for this edition of the Newsfeed. I'm Hannah Brown.
And I'm Ryan Naki. The town of Blacksburg begins construction on the area that once held a large field off of South Main Street and Ehart Street. The space is being used for a new community space called Midtown. The space used to be the location of the old Blacksburg Middle School. After the school was demolished, it provided a large 20-acre field for residents nearby to enjoy. Midtown will be a new community area featuring restaurants and shops, as well as having an environmentally friendly design. However, despite the project not beginning till May, the town has fenced off the area as construction crews begin prepping. For the residents who live in the vicinity of the field, they are very saddened to lose the field this early.
It's pretty sad. It's really loud in the mornings and the afternoons now. It's not a pretty sight to see, and we miss playing soccer and lacrosse and just running around on the field when it's nice out, so we're all pretty bummed about it.
The complex will also consist of 90 to 100 new townhouses. The area will also have a parking garage as well. So for residents nearby, they will just have to endure throughout this building process. With the ever-increasing student population in Blacksburg, housing has become a major topic of discussion. Recently, Terrace View Apartments emailed their residents saying how lucky they are to be renting apartments and not worried about the pressures of home ownership. Newsfeed reporter Ariadne Manikis has more on this story.
The need for housing in Blacksburg is growing both for renters and homeowners, and an email from Terrace View Apartments has sparked conversation in town about the advantages and disadvantages of both renting and purchasing a home. Terrace View said residents in their apartments are able to live carefree knowing they are not homeowners. Sammy Schroen works in Virginia Tech's off-campus housing office and says one of the biggest downsides to home ownership is a lack of convenience.
You don't have the really handy packages like amenities and coupling up your bills that an apartment would take care of for you. Usually people that would buy are older people or like property management who are looking to lease those properties.
She says off-campus housing doesn't recommend options for homeownership to students because it's something they assume most young people aren't interested in or can't afford. Last year, Kyle Erickson was a housing chair in his fraternity where he was in charge of finding housing in Blacksburg for over 60 brothers. He says that home ownership is too much of a responsibility for most students and too expensive.
When you own a home, you're obviously responsible for everything that goes on. And when you're renting a house, you're still responsible for maintaining, but it isn't yours. Owning a home is really an investment. It's how a lot of people kind of fund their retirements in America. And so when you own a house, like the burden is on you as the landlord if you're renting it out, or just as the homeowner if you're living there, to maintain every part of it.
Before purchasing or renting a home, consider the level of responsibility you are willing to take on in terms of maintenance. Reporting for the Newsfeed, I'm Ariadne Manikis.
In other housing news, affordable housing in Blacksburg and Christiansburg will have new growth thanks to a government grant. U.S. Senators Mark Warner and Tim Kaine approved the $1.5 million grant from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development to be divided among Blacksburg, Christiansburg, and Radford. Most of the funding will go towards housing in Blacksburg. Newsfeed reporter Dan Dembski tells us more in this next story.
Of the $1.5 million grant sent on February 21st, Blacksburg will receive $1.1 million from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. According to Matt Hanratty, assistant to the town manager of Blacksburg, affordable housing in Blacksburg is a must in order to fill community needs.
We're the major employment center for the New River Valley. Over 16,000 people commute into Blacksburg every day to work. Tech being the lion's share of that, but our corporate research center and other business partners. And we need to be able to provide housing for folks.
Several projects have already been put in motion, including a large apartment complex just off Church Street in downtown Blacksburg, and a new apartment complex housed in the old Price's Fork Elementary School off Price's Fork Road.
The lower income folks are always the folks that get pushed out first. They just don't have the buying power. House prices escalate, and you kind of see that trending. So that's one of the things that the grant can help provide is for the lower income folks in our community that serve our community and want to be here. We can help provide some housing opportunities for them.
Reporting for the Newsfeed, I'm Dan Dembski.
A Richmond, Virginia police captain, a former First Lady of Virginia, and a nun are among the women who will be honored during a luncheon to mark Women's History Month. Strong Voices, celebrating the power and stories of Richmond women, will be hosted by the Richmond Times-Dispatch on March 16th. The event is being held to honor women whose vision and commitment have served Richmond and Virginia. The Times-Dispatch reports that participants will share personal reflections on how they preserved, how they're inspired, and how they're extending the path for the next generation of women.
Virginia lawmakers have passed a bill that will require full-time teachers to complete mental health awareness training, though some advocates are split on how the training should be implemented. Democratic Delegate Kay Corey of Fairfax sponsored House Bill 74, which incorporated HB 716 and HB 1554. Corey, a former school board member, said teachers and faculty may be better able to understand and help prevent related issues if they are trained properly to recognize signs of mental health problems. The bill requires school boards to adopt and implement policies for the training, which can be completed online.
Just ahead on the news feed, Virginia Tech has new updates for its energy plan.
And what downtown businesses are doing to give back to the community. That story and more after this break.
Julie was always a voracious reader. She'd carry 2 novels on an airplane because she'd read one on a 3-4 hour ride. And at some point, I began to notice that she would read a page and couldn't remember what she had just read, and she'd have to go back and read it again.
I don't remember much these days after I read, but less does for me, and I love it.
Hi, everyone. Al Roker here. As a guy with his own catchphrase, I appreciate that after 75 years, Smokey's only said,
"Only you can prevent wildfires."
But I'm filling in because there's a lot more to report. Like when there are parched or windy conditions out there, you gotta be extra careful with things like burning yard waste. After all, wildfires can start anywhere, even in your neck of the woods. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention.
What are you doing in there?
What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
Welcome back to the news feed. I'm Ryan Naki.
And I'm Hannah Brown. Residents of Blacksburg will likely notice a familiar tenant in the building previously occupied by Five Guys. A local professor looks to expand his upstart business to more than just the student body. The Blacksburg Wine Lab, a space for students or community members alike to have a meal, or just come by for a tasting, was opened in late 2018. The Wine Lab is seen as an extension of the Virginia Tech campus, as the lab is commonly used by students taking the virtual lecture class, Geography of Wine. The class, run by co-owner of the Wine Lab, John Boyer, encourages students to expand their wine palate through tastings and exposure. Students see the lab as a welcome addition to the community.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a nice addition to the community because I don't really think there are many places like that. I mean, we do have a winery, and then White Barrel opened up kind of like around the same time, but I think it's nice to have that option.
The Wine Lab temporarily expanded in February, taking over the space previously occupied by Five Guys. The Wine Lab is one of many new businesses recently opened in the Blacksburg area, helping add to the already various amounts of business joining the New River Valley. There are currently no new plans for the space previously occupied by Five Guys, and there is belief that the chain will open a new location in Christiansburg. Phase 5 of Virginia Tech's Energy Action Plan is underway on campus. The action plan was aimed towards creating a more energy-efficient campus and reducing energy costs for the university. Newsfeed reporter Rodrigo Avilés joins us from the newsroom with more details on this story. Rodrigo?
Thanks, Hannah.
Back in 2015, Virginia Tech conducted an analysis of campus and realized that there were plenty of opportunities to implement energy conservation efforts. 5 years later, the school is almost finished with their original action plan. Since the implementation of the 5-year action plan in 2015, Virginia Tech is doing its part in trying to create a more sustainable campus. Currently, the university is on phase 5 of the action plan. Some of the steps they have taken so far include installing steam meters in campus buildings, conducting energy audits, and adding other renewable energy sources such as solar panels to campus. In the first 4 phases of the Energy Action Plan, the university reduced carbon emissions by approximately 23,000 tons per year. The phases have also saved Virginia Tech $2.3 trillion in annual energy costs. Virginia Tech is almost finished with the 5-year plan they created, but energy conservation efforts will surely continue. The university will continue to take steps to reducing its carbon footprint and finding ways to conserve energy. I'm Rodrigo Avalos for the Newsfeed. Back to you guys at the news desk.
Thanks, Rodrigo. In other news, Ut Prosim, meaning that I may serve, has always been Virginia Tech's motto, and community service is a large part of the university's personality. Off-campus businesses are doing their part to serve the community as well by sponsoring charity events like donation days and percentage nights. Local businesses in the New River Valley, such as Sharky's, have done their part to give back to the community by holding events like Thoughtful Thursday. Every Thursday, Sharky's takes 10% of all food orders and donates the proceeds to a different local charity every week, such as Relay for Life and the New River Valley Diaper Pantry. These events can even bring in extra profits to these businesses, as well as raise money for the community.
I think it works well because it's not only that I may serve, but we in a way are like serving ourselves. We're also like through serving ourselves, we've found a way to serve other people, so it's really a win-win.
Other chain restaurants, such as Chipotle and Panda Express, are also great resources for on-campus organizations to fundraise. Such businesses pair with fraternities and other organizations, not only to attract more customers, but also to pool donations and raise money for other charities and charity-based events. Other restaurants pair with food banks to donate their food that would otherwise be wasted. Virginia Tech's culture has clearly spread to the rest of the town, which is a good sign for those less fortunate.
That'll wrap up this edition of the Newsfeed. If you have a story idea for the Newsfeed, let us know. Send us an email at thenewsfeednrv@gmail.com. And, as always, you can also connect with the Newsfeed on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for watching. I'm Hannah Brown.
And I'm Ryan Nockey.